What's up, everyone? This is Cheyenne B, and you are listening to 5D Marketing Secrets Radio. So here's the real mystery. How do real spiritual-based business owners like us grow a large following of our soulmate clients who are begging to pay us for our skills and gifts? How do we increase sales and make a contribution while also making a killer income? That is the blaring question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name is Cheyenne Burnett, and welcome to 5D Marketing Secrets Radio. Hey, you guys, welcome back. In this very special episode of 5D Marketing Secrets Radio, I was gifted the opportunity to interview Maureen St Germain. Maureen is a profound akashic guide, world-renowned author, and practical mystic who, over the last 2 decades, has developed foolproof techniques to access your higher self. Maureen has taught these techniques in 24 different countries, has been published in 4 different languages, and has even been featured on National Geographic. So the insight into how she's done it and what she would do differently is absolutely priceless. Enjoy. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me, Maureen. There's a lot of people that are really interested to hear what you have to say, and I am one of them.
I'm happy to share my 5D information.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, what's funny is I was actually introduced to you over a year ago because of your attendance at one of the Sedona retreats, and I've followed your work until then. And your new book just came out, and it was so funny to me because I had already named my company 5D Marketing Secrets, and then you launched your book, and so of course I had to reach out and connect with you.
Nice, very nice. And you know, that book was named the best-selling book in America.
Really?
2 months after it got out. Mm-hmm.
Wow. The whole purpose of connecting with you is to obviously talk about your experiences as a spiritual professional and moving into that. So I definitely want to talk about your book that just came out, but I also want to know your story and the beginning of all of this. So where did you start, Maureen? Because you're widely known now, but that wasn't always the case.
I personally started with reading Enter Casey as a teenager.
Oh.
My mother was also very gifted, but we were Catholic, so she didn't talk too much about her gift of clairvoyance, except for once in a while she'd tell us how she woke up one morning and said she dreamt Grandma had a heart attack, and that morning Grandma had a heart attack, stuff like that.
Wow.
So that's where I started. And then my interest in spirituality continued to grow with different books I was reading. And then I got married and I had children, and I worked in New York City for a long time. And then my husband and I, at the time, decided to leave New York and come to the Midwest and take up a job that my husband had been offered. So I continued my study, and then I was able to join a Casey study group. And then I studied the teachings of the Ascended Masters. And then eventually my corporate work, I went back to work in the corporate world after my kids were a certain age, and then I started study groups of my own.
Oh.
And then I discovered Drumble and Melchizedek's work on the Merkaba. And I consider the original 17 breath Merkaba one of the highest forms of meditation you can do.
Really?
And I made a DVD on how to learn that when I could feel like that cycle was coming to a close.
Yeah.
So when people want to learn it and they reach out to me, I tell them, get the DVD. And there's 2 DVDs. One DVD is a shortened version that teaches you the basics of the Merkaba. And the other version is the long version, which is the full 20 hours. So one's 4 hours and one's like 18 hours.
Oh, wow.
Both of them have the breaks and the lunch hours cut out, of course.
Yeah.
So they're wonderful tools. And I taught that work for almost 20 years.
Really?
And,
Wow, I didn't know that.
And I advertised in a wonderful publication called the Sedona Journal of Emergence.
Okay.
And again, Spirit told me, I have to back up and say that one of the things that I did in teaching the Merkaba, there was a cycle of time where we were told we were not permitted to activate the last 3 breaths of the Merkaba without permission from your higher self.
Yeah.
But you taught us how to connect with the higher self. So I made it my mission to learn how to do that. And I used the actual Merkaba to teach me this tool. So I asked the Merkaba, or my higher self, to show me a way to teach the students an easy way to connect with their higher self and for accuracy.
Yeah.
So one of the things that came out of that work was an original body of knowledge on how to connect with your higher self. It takes 6 weeks. You get 100% accuracy. And it's a simple protocol, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So it's very easy and fun to do. And it's in all my books.
Really?
The most detailed one, of course, is in the book called Beyond the Flower of Life, and it has lots and lots of detail, chapters 4 and 5.
Gotcha.
And then in the current book, Waking Up in 5D, I have an abbreviated explanation of it. So anybody can learn it.
Yeah.
It's very, very powerful. And then that is what led me to my next steps. So for example, when I still had my corporate job, I had 4 children.
Oh, wow.
I was putting them through college. First one through college, and then eventually all of them through college except for one who went in the military. So I had a big system. I was making a lot of money and spending a lot of money, because college is very expensive.
Yeah.
I added it up one time. And the amount of outlay I made over that time period was over $100,000.
Wow.
And my base pay was like $35,000. So it was a big runaround
Yeah.
to do all that, to make it all happen.
Right.
So, people who say that things, they don't have enough or they can't do it, that is a way to get out of doing it.
Yeah.
But if you really want it, then you tell the universe, this is what I want. I intend to produce it. And I would get pickup jobs and other opportunities that would bring chunks of money in.
Yeah.
So that I could pay that, Or I'd get a big tax return, any number of things. Anyway, so out of that cycle, I wrote a book called Be a Genie.
Right.
And Be a Genie is based on the sacred geometry. And it's based on the idea that if you know your sacred geometry, you can actually manifest very easily.
Yeah.
So I actually wrote that material before I started teaching the Merkaba. But because I was so well known by this time for the Merkaba, then the publications got reversed. And the book on the Flower of Life got published first. Now I want to explain that the book Beyond the Flower of Life is really an advanced meditation book. So no matter what your meditation practices are, that book would give you tools to enhance it and to grow your spiritual connection and to help you heal your heart. And I was doing every one of these things. I kind of joke around and say, everything I thought I needed, I made for myself, and then Spirit would say, well, now make it for the public.
Right.
One example is this amazing guided meditation called Dancing in the River of Golden Opportunity. And I had been given that in the Akashic Records. And I had been, doing Akashic Records readings and founded the Akashic Records International. So one day, one of my friends who owned an aromatherapy company that was based on flower essences called me and was crying about the fact that she had 3 big customers that owed her, like $6,000 and $10,000 and $8,000, and she was going bankrupt because she couldn't pay her bills, and all she needed was one of them to, pay on time, and she'd be in great shape. Yeah. So I said to her, well, I got this meditation in the Akashic Records for myself, but, maybe we should try it with you. Would you like to do that? And she said, oh, yeah. So I walked her through it, took her through the meditation. And the next day she called me. She says, that was amazing. I got a check for $6,000 and a call from somebody else saying they're going to pay right away.
Wow.
And so a couple of weeks go by and she calls me again in desperate straits. And she said, can we do that meditation again? And I said, sure. So we do it again. Third time she calls me with the same drama. After we had our conversation and we did the meditation, I said to Spirit, am I supposed to make this available to the public?
Yeah.
So sometimes, you're the reluctant mystic. You don't even know that you're supposed to do stuff, right? And that may be a lot of people. They get put into situations and they get good information, but they don't realize, oh yeah, somebody else could benefit from this. So a lot of my guided meditations came through my own needs or the needs of my students.
Yeah.
And the very first guided meditation I ever did was very funny. I had a recording from a very well-known spiritual teacher. And I loved her content, but her voice was very scratchy and difficult to listen to. And I was a voice major in college, and I had this nice velvet voice. And I remember saying to my sister, well, great material. It's too bad it sounds so horrible. I can't listen to it, Right. It's not going to work for me.
Right.
And then I said, kind of as a half a comment, I could have done better than that. And she said, and what's stopping you? And then later, much later, I was renewing my membership at the Casey organization. And they had, like a free life projection based upon your astrology and, whatever information was there.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it said that I would be really good at guided meditations.
Oh, how funny.
Mm-hmm. And my newest guided meditation is called Golden Bowl, Activating Your Sixth Sense. And it is phenomenal. It is probably going to go viral.
Yeah.
It is so amazing. And it's got like a 15-minute intro and then a 15-minute meditation. So it's really short.
Yeah.
And you don't have to listen to the intro every time. I tell people, listen to it like every other time. It is so fantastic. I have a full page of feedback from the early beta testers who all claim that they had amazing experiences. They went really high energetically, and they felt their sinuses open up, because the golden bowl, it turns out, is this energy field from around your eyes. So the sinuses here, and then here, and then in the back of the head. And it forms a resonance chamber that opens up the pineal. And I actually found a reference to it in the Old Testament.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And the reference is something like, pray now, do these things now before you're old, and the golden bowl is broken, and the silver cord has been cut. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, I explain all that in the intro, so it's very helpful to know you have a really solid basis for this knowledge. And then I walk people through it. And then the other thing I do is I was told by guidance to take all the toxins that we normally get that keep us from opening our pineal, fluoride and all that jazz.
Right.
And clear it out. So there's actually invocations that instantly remove those energies.
Really?
And removes the thought form behind those energies. Because sometimes the thought form itself is what's hanging on, not the energy. You're doing the stuff to clear it out.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that there's still that energetic imprint that's there, kind of like in homeopathy. So getting back to my history, what happened is when I started teaching the Flower of Life workshop, the original Merkaba, the original 17 breath Merkaba, and I started getting information from guidance to explain the sacred geometry in a way that people could really understand it, word spread. And so then people who went to Drumbolo's workshops would compare notes, and they say, well, I didn't learn that in my workshop. I didn't learn that in my workshop. Who'd you take it from? Like that.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon Drumbolo was telling everyone that I was the best teacher. So
wow,
my notoriety grew, and I got invited all over the world.
Yeah.
So that's, the big advice here for your clients, for your listeners, is focus on being the highest expression of whatever. Don't settle for, okay, I got it out. I did the thing. I know a lot of people say, just do it. Just get it out there. And a lot of people hesitate because they don't want to do it because it's not perfect. So I'm not saying either one of those.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, show up, do your part, listen to the feedback, pay attention to your work, and then improve it the next time. And each time you do it, you make it better. And you intend that you are in complete service for each one. For example, before every workshop that I ever did, I always made the prayer that I would connect with my own higher self, and then I would connect with the higher selves of everyone in the classroom.
Wow.
So that I would fulfill their needs and match what I was giving in that workshop. So, of course, everyone thought they got what they came for. So that was very powerful. And then the other thing I will say is do your work. During that cycle, I was every week getting Reiki treatments and clearing out energy, and, energy that even I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
And one time when my Reiki healer was working on me, and she put her hands on me, she started shaking, like this. And after the session, I said, what was that? She said, beats me. I don't know. So then the next time, when it started, I said, check in, find out what that is. And she said, hatred of men. And I started to laugh, and I said, I love men. I have 4 sons. I was married for 25 years. I find that really amazing. But it was there.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying to you is it would be easy for me to deny that that was true. It would be easy to say, oh, well, that's not me. But instead, I remain curious. And that's very important because as we receive new knowledge from Spirit, it's very easy to become dogmatic. And we're in a time frame where the reality is changing so fast that the only way we can continue to be relevant is to be checking in every day, which is why that higher self connection is so powerful. Because it was my higher self that said to me one day, you need to buy an ad in the Sedona Journal.
Yeah.
And I looked at the price, and it was $250. Now, keep in mind, I was a mom on a budget with kids at home and one in college, and my college tuition payment was $10,000 a year. I was like counting pennies,
Right.
And so I thought, that's a lot of money. Are you sure? Yes. Do it now. So I did. And within a couple of months, I was out of a job. But I was already locked into a contract. So I had to continue. And I continued for many, many years to the point that I didn't seem to need it as much. But now I'm back with them advertising again. So it is important to buy the print advertising. Don't let anyone tell you you don't need it, because it helps reinforce your message.
Yeah.
And it is expensive. And, people say, well, are you getting a return on your investment? But if you check in with your guidance, and your guidance says to do it, even if you don't have the money to support that, you don't have the person saying, I saw you in the Sedona Journal, for example.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that wasn't worthwhile. And here's the proof. This has happened more than one time, but I'll give you one example. A host would say to me, I took the flyers you gave me and I put them all over. And yet, when you asked where people heard about you, they said, they saw your ad, they saw Flower of Life's website, they saw this and that, but nobody saw my flyers. I wasted all that time.
Yeah.
And they'd say, oh no. When I have a class that has low attendance, and then I ask the host, how did you do with the flyers? Oh, I was sick when I was supposed to do it. I couldn't get out. Or my baby was sick, whatever. They've got good reasons that they haven't done the promotion that they're supposed to help bring them the attendance in. But then it would show up in the attendance. So I would say to the host that had a good attendance, that had done her work, your intention was what brought the people. And they found us, or me, whatever way they could.
Yeah.
And we didn't what's the word I want? It didn't have to be an exact match. So it's almost like, that phrase, pay it forward.
Yeah, okay.
You're putting the intention out, and the universe brings it back the fastest way it can, not necessarily from the guy that's sitting next to you on the airplane.
Right. That's actually brilliant advice. I love that, because the concept.
So this is why your higher self is so important, because if you go by I came from the corporate world.
Yeah.
When I bought advertising for my organization in the corporate world, I was justifying we're getting all these inquiries as a result. But this was something different, to allow the universe to show me that I could produce results based on the intentions of the people, and that it didn't necessarily have to add up in a sequential way that this ad produced this number of people.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel very strongly about. And then the other thing I feel strongly about is affiliation. And that is, if you're affiliated with any organization, you've taken some training and you have some affiliation, and let's say they have a monthly fee or an annual fee to be part of the organization, but then you're listed on a website, or you have some kind of network going, your affiliation money is always used energetically. If you give it with gratitude, the results will be multiplied. If you give it with, what shall I say?
Hesitation, maybe.
Resentment.
Yeah.
Or, frustration. Oh, dang, I have to pay this again.
Right.
It doesn't work. And here's something else that I learned in the early years. When I would get a bill, let's say I committed to some advertising and then forgot.
Yeah.
And now the bill's in front of me and I'm going, oh crap, I don't have the money. I just paid, the rent and this, and there's nothing left.
Right.
I would look at that bill and say, the universe knows something I don't know, because I wouldn't receive this bill at this time unless there was money coming in to pay for it.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. I love that perspective.
Yeah. So those are some very powerful ways that people can start their business. And then the other thing is, whatever you're passionate about, that's what you should do. And do it as a volunteer first if you need to. That's what I did. I had these study groups for a number of years, and we just did study group around books. But it became very evident to me that I was always in a place of being able to explain things or to see deeper truths. And so, I found that people enjoyed the groups, and then that led me to get started. I'll tell you something else. When I first started, I really wanted to write a book.
Yeah.
But I was terrified, absolutely terrified. Now to show you, let's go back 30 years or 20 years, maybe 20 years. And think about my first laptop. This is so funny when I think about it now, because I'm really techie now. I had my first laptop. It sat in the box for 6 months because I was afraid to open it. Okay? Can you imagine? What a dumb thing to do. Now I have the iPhone 10 and 100, apps, and I'm on it, but it was an interesting time. So one of the things I want to encourage your listeners is whatever you're passionate about, find a way to do it as a volunteer. Even Neil Donald Walsh, the guy who wrote Conversations with God, tells how he volunteered for Elizabeth Kubler-Ross program, and pretty soon he was asked to be on staff. Yeah. Then years later, when he encountered Terry Cole Whitaker, a former minister, she's not working in that field now, but she's really well known and had a huge, huge following. He volunteered there for a while and then was asked to come on staff. Wow. And my last assistant that I had in San Diego volunteered for me for a while before she came on staff. So one of the ways you can get in with any organization is to volunteer.
Yeah.
Because volunteering does a number of things. Number one, it lets the person who's running the organization know you're interested and that you are one of them. And number two, you get to learn. And you learn things that you didn't know, which is very powerful. And you also learn group dynamics, because group dynamics is dramatically different than running your own company. When I worked in the corporate world, I represented dentists. And one of the female dentists said to me one time, it's hard. Excuse me. She said, it's hard to work for us because we're trained to look in someone's mouth and see what's wrong.
Yeah.
And so that's how we look at life. And it's kind of funny. She said, we tend to come across that way to people. And we have to pay attention to that. But she also gave me the benefit of accepting them in that way. So know your audience.
Interesting.
And how do you know your audience? The answer is go volunteer.
Yeah.
In an environment that is similar to what you want to do.
I think that's great advice. That makes a lot of sense. I'm interested. You said something at the beginning of our conversation about growing up in a Catholic home. And if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of circle back to that, because what an interesting transition for you. Was that really challenging to when you started moving? Because the transition from corporate to spiritual is hard as it is, but did you experience trials with that?
First of all, I maintained my spiritual connection all the way through. And I didn't find it problematic because I really believed in Catholicism. And, like Neil Donald Walsh, I thought I was going into the convent. He thought he was going to be a priest.
Oh.
And his father put his foot down. And in my case, I discovered boys, and it kind of put the kibosh on being celibate. So I changed my mind at the last minute. I actually was enrolled and registered to join the convent, and had even spent a weekend, with them and thinking about what that might mean. Excuse me.
Yeah, no problem.
So I had a big devotion, and I didn't really leave the Catholic Church until I had little ones, because I couldn't go to church with them because my era didn't make the kids shush like my parents' era did. You got swatted if you were noisy or rambunctious in an environment that you weren't supposed to be.
Yeah.
In my generation, we let our kids do what they wanted, and we helped them make good decisions, but we didn't have that strictness about how children were supposed to be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking for an environment where my kids could get some religious education while I was getting my spiritual nourishment.
Yeah.
So I switched over to Unity and then Science of Mind. And in both places, I ended up teaching Sunday school, which is really funny.
Yeah.
Um, but again, it was good training, and of course you'd get drafted with 4 kids. They want you in there teaching. But another thing that was really good for me was one of the lessons that I taught the teachers who were under me, read the lesson plan, because it wasn't like they had to come up with their own lessons. They had, books and things.
Yeah.
Read the lesson plan on Sunday night after you've tucked your kids in bed. And let the universe bring you all the props you need to give the lesson and to make it worthwhile. And I have found over the years that anytime I really need to teach something or to understand something, if I tell the universe I'm ready to teach it or I'm ready to present it, the universe sends me all kinds of cool ways to make that visible or viewable to the audiences that I'm working with. So that's very useful to know. Instead of sweating bullets, I don't know what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Is to start to write what you're going to say and say, okay, I want to write on this topic. And then say to the universe, okay, help me to meet the right people or know the right things to share with people. Yeah. I recently read a blog post about a woman who started teaching about IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like it was her thing. But what happened was she was into nutrition and she started asking her friends, what do you think people need? I'd like to write a column on nutrition. And she got enough people saying irritable bowel syndrome that she said, okay, that's it. I'm taking the hint. And that's true in all cases. If you ask, the universe will show you, even if you don't think you're intuitive. You'll read a sign, you'll get a magazine invitation, something will jump out at you that will make you say, oh, that's a match. And that's when you know.
I love that. That's one thing I teach, we call it the crystal ball campaign, where it dives into asking people what they need. So we don't just guess what people need, even though intuition is important, but just simply asking makes a big difference. And you've mentioned that a couple of times. So she did it, but you also talk about a beta group. So do you dive into your community and ask what they're looking for?
Oh, yeah. So, for example, when I came out with the Golden Bowl, I knew it was going to be sensational. Yeah. I knew it was going to be transformative. So I wrote everybody on my list and said, I'm introducing this new meditation, and I'm willing to send you a beta version in exchange for your feedback.
Oh, I love that.
And so most of the people gave me feedback. Some of it was good. Most of it was really, really good. And a few critics. But those things that were criticized, I fixed.
Yeah.
One person didn't like the way it ended. And I didn't either, as a matter of fact. But it was what I had as a tool at the time. And I thought, okay, I didn't like it. She doesn't like it. I need to fix it. Again, letting the universe show you.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So you've collected, because you've been doing this how long? This has been a long time.
Say it again.
How long have you been doing this?
I went public in 1994.
Okay, so sometime. And over that time, you've collected people who've either invested in your trainings or bought your books and put them on a list.
Yes, my list has gone through so much transformation.
Yeah.
Like everybody else, I do use a mail system. I use MailChimp right now. I used to use Constant Contact. I like Constant Contact better for its graphics ability, but MailChimp does things for us that we couldn't get in Constant Contact, which is why we switched.
Yeah.
But we keep everybody who buys from us on our list, and then people who inquire or want our freebies. I give out a lot of freebies. I
Yeah.
have a free meditation on my website all the time called Divine Government Meditation, because for the last 5 years, everybody's been screaming about the government.
Mm-hmm.
And what I say to people when they're full of complaints about whomever, I'll say, yeah, but if that was my teenager, my son, and I told you some drama that they were involved in, you would say to me, well, I'll say a prayer for him. So let's do that. Let's say a prayer for them.
Yeah.
And the Divine Government Meditation, which is free, takes people through not only your boss or your coworkers who have, power over you, all the way up to the heads of every country, and basically claims the divine connection for each of them. And because we are their constituencies, our prayers are answered. It's not like you're praying for a stranger that doesn't know who you are, because you're part of that group.
Yeah.
So that's one freebie that's always there. It's been there for a couple of years. And then every month I write a blog post about something that comes through. It's very important. In the month of December, I wrote a blog post about Mary Magdalene.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And then the freebie was a guided meditation that I wrote years ago and never released. And it was the Aramaic prayer of Jesus, which is also known as the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah.
So I do it in English and Aramaic for each phrase. And then at the end, I do the whole thing in Aramaic. And there's something very powerful that happens when you listen to that last piece. It's like, oh, it's like a huge connection. And that's the freebie that's going on in December. In January, there is going to be a post about changing the past, and then a guided meditation to take you through how you can do that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's definitely something to look forward to.
Yeah, very powerful stuff. And if you sign up on my list right away, you'll get a notification that it's out.
Oh,
and so you can go pick it up.
And what is your website so that the listeners can go find it?
MaureenStGermain.com.
Perfect. That's easy. That's wonderful. And then your books are also available on your website, right? But we can find them on Amazon.
Yes, you can find them on Amazon, on Kindle. My books are selling very well all over the U.S. in, the big box stores as well as the independent stores.
Yeah.
And as I told you before we went online, my current book, Waking Up in 5D, was voted the best-selling book across America. Yeah. And it was a write-in vote. And it was like 2 or 3 months after the book had come out. So that's pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
Because it has helped so many people. And the publishers told me they're on their third printing of the book, and its anniversary was September, so it's a little over a year old.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And my next book that's coming out in April is on the Akashic Records and how to open the Akashic Records for yourself and for others, and lots of really powerful information about what's going on. And my books are filled not only with information on the how-to, but also with channeled messages that come through. For example, one time when I was teaching a class on manifestation, and I opened to receive a channeled message, the Lords of Time came through.
Wow.
Now, I had never heard of the Lords of Time, but the connection was so clear, and the name that they said through me was so clear, I knew I wasn't making it up. And that message went into this book, Waking Up in 5D, that you have been talking about.
Yeah.
That is a match for your marketing programs.
Right.
And the big message of Waking Up in 5D is to help people understand that the rules haven't changed, the game has changed.
I think that's perfectly said. I think you're absolutely right.
Because the new game isn't me against you. Mm-hmm. It's all collaborative.
Yeah.
The more willing we are to collaborate, the more we will get. So when you get the chance, you promote others as well as yourself, which is basically what you're doing.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's
Very
wonderful.
cool.
Well, and that's our whole goal, is to help, individuals like you who've seen a lot of success have the opportunity to have other people who have a message and have a voice that are supposed
Now,
to.
I'll tell you something that was a really big disappointment. I don't call it a failure, but I would call it a disappointment. I have a manifestation program that I use, and it's very well outlined in the book, Be a Genie.
Mm.
It's very, very powerful, very, very easy. And I had asked for a 3-book deal or better. That's what my basis was. I figure if you're going to ask for a book deal, you may as well get a 3-book deal, right? Why should I settle for one?
I like that.
So I asked for a 2-book deal or better. I don't know if I said 3-book deal, but 2-book deal or better. And within a year, I was talking to the same people who published Conversations with God, Hampton Roads. And I came to New York for the book fair and was interviewed by them, and they liked me, and they signed me to a 3-book deal as a brand new author. You never hear of a new author who doesn't have a book out.
Right?
Getting that kind of an opportunity. That's what I manifested.
Wow.
Okay, so that's the good news. The bad news is I kept getting letters from the accounting department telling me my advance was in the mail after I had turned in my manuscripts, but they never mailed it.
What?
And 6 months later, after a signed contract, the publisher called me to say, we're not going to do your books.
What?
True. Very true.
Wow.
So just getting a publisher isn't enough, you guys. It is not enough. And I share this with you because it was a big aha for me. I thought getting a publishing deal would pretty much cinch it because I knew my books would be good.
Yeah.
What I had failed to realize is a whole lot of things that go on behind the scenes. And in this case, the publisher, when they signed me, had a promise from an investor or a number of investors, I'm not sure, who were going to put in a big infusion of cash, which is how they were going to finance my books.
Mm-hmm.
And that never happened.
Mm.
And if you have to get rid of a bunch of books in a hurry, you would go to the author that wrote this you owe for 3. So when I got that phone call, I was so devastated. I went like into this dark place. Now, I will tell you, when I talked to my agent and he told me, I said to him, I know it's just a setback and I'll be back. It was very positive with him. But my best friend said to me, I know you were really upset because you didn't tell me for 6 months, which was true.
Right.
I couldn't talk about it. I was just devastated. And I looked upon it and said, okay, I want these books to be bestsellers. Maybe they need more rewrites.
Mm.
So both of my big books, Waking Up in Fire, Be a Genie, and Beyond the Flower of Life, and Beyond the Flower of Life's on its 3rd printing also. They went through 27 editions before they actually went to a publisher. So when a person says, oh yeah, I finally finished my book, now I'm ready to take it to a publisher, I just laugh and say, you ain't seen nothing. You need to go back and do rewrites. And, I counted mine, I labeled every one of them. And I got up to 27.
Yeah. Wow.
So when you write a book and you think it's good enough to go ahead and send it out, but then keep rewriting it.
Yeah.
Don't assume that it is good to go. And if you're lucky enough to get a letter back from somebody telling you what they don't like about the book or what it needs, take that to heart and do the work. And I had the good fortune of getting such a letter from a pretty big publisher. She said that she really wanted the book, but there were these major flaws and she just couldn't justify it. But she listed them.
Mm.
So I made those corrections, and my book agent signed it to another book company before that company that gave me the suggestions had a chance to even look at it.
Oh,
But it
wow.
was because of them that I was able to make those improvements.
Yeah.
So every critique is a worthwhile critique. And don't let anybody, don't dismiss anyone's criticism. Now, if you get 5 people telling you to go in the direction of A and 1 person telling you to go in the direction of B, and you really want to go in the direction of B, I'd be inclined to unhook from my B and go with the A because you have the numbers behind it.
Right.
At the same time, there are a few times when you really want to stick with something. And for example, in the manifestation book, Be a Genie, I really wanted the math first because I love math and I love the sacred geometry, and it's like mother's milk for me. And so I felt that was the most important thing. You understand that. You have the world at your feet.
Right.
But most people are terrified of math. So I finally relented and made it part 2. But it wasn't my preference. And that was a big unhook because I was passionate about that. And I finally realized that these people were right. And just because I love the math and could make it interesting for the reader, what I was told is people who are scared of math will see that the math is in the beginning and they'll put it down. They won't even get far enough to know how fun you are with the math or how easy you make it,
Yeah.
So that was a big aha for me. And I think I was probably in the 20s before I finally bit the bullet on that one.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's great advice because I've found in my own personal business that I believe that this is what needs to happen or this is what's exciting for me, and I'm not serving me. I'm serving my community.
Right. And that's what I was going to say to you before. I really wanted to write a book, and as I said, I was terrified.
Yeah.
And I was a pretty good writer in high school, but not that great. So I was kind of worried that I didn't know what I was doing, and I just knew I wanted to write a book. I didn't even know about what.
Yeah.
And so, but I do like talking to people. So I thought, well, I'll just teach a workshop. And then the book will write itself. So what I did for the manifestation is I imagined that I was speaking in front of this big group, and I was a member of a trade association that had like 5,000 people come to their conventions. And they had these breakouts that had anywhere from 50 to 100 people show up. So I saw myself in one of the breakout sessions and that the room was full. Well, 4 weeks later, I was at the national meeting. And this was still like a dream for me, what I had envisioned. And I had a friend that I kept trying to connect with. And finally, I said to her, since we haven't been able to connect, how about breakfast the day you leave? She said, okay, I'll do it. So we sit down and she explains to me that she's leaving the industry, blah, blah, blah. And so I feel safe telling her my dream that I want to present to this national organization and I want to get on the program. And she looks at me and said, well, Maureen, you have to write a proposal and submit it to the education committee. And like a lot of people, I said, I know. I didn't know, right? But I pretended.
Yeah.
And then she said, but Maureen, the deadline is next week.
Oh.
And by the way, I sit on the committee and it's my last meeting. So if you get it in and it gets past the staff, I will speak in favor of it.
Wow.
At that point, I didn't even have an outline.
Oh my gosh.
So I imagined my outcome every way through. And you have to understand that the principle in the Be a Genie book isn't just to imagine your outcome. It's to imagine the after event that ensures that you're going to have your outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? If you wanted to be with a beloved, for example, I'll come back to the book in a second, but if you wanted to be with a beloved, you wouldn't see yourself with the beloved. You would see yourself celebrating an anniversary, because that would prove that you've been together, that you had a relationship, you're having a dinner, and you're clinking glasses.
Yeah.
I'm so happy I met you. That event, which I call the after event, proves that you met your beloved, that you were happy, that you were celebrating an anniversary. You don't even know what it is. Maybe it's your wedding, maybe it's the day we met, maybe the day we moved in together. It doesn't matter. But you're celebrating how happy you are. And here's the clincher. This is what makes it real and manifest so fast. You pretend that you hear what they say and what you say. So, for example, on the beloved scenario, you'd say to your beloved, I'm so grateful you came into my life. And he says, I have never met anyone like you. I have been looking for you my whole life. And I am so glad I found you. And when you hear that script, even in your mind's eye, everything changes here in your heart. And you start to feel it. And you go, oh, that's one of the sweetest things you've ever said to me. I'm just so grateful. And he says, I am too. So you hear this real-time conversation. What that does is anchors it into your psyche. And then the universe takes care of the detail. You don't know when that's going to happen. You don't know how.
Right.
In my case, for example, when I was ready for a beloved and he came in, I had forgotten to say that he would be a New Yorker. So I pushed him away. I did everything I could to push him away.
Yeah.
At one point I said to him, well, I'm famous. Are you sure you want to be with someone that's famous? And he said, well, I'm famous too. And proceeds to tell me how he's famous, which I thought was hilarious because I didn't know that about him. And then he sends me an email telling me I was exactly, 17.3 times more famous than him or some number. But being a researcher and being famous for his work, in the old days, before Google changed their algorithms, you could actually figure that out. Now, I checked in with guidance every step of the way because I did not want to be with someone who lived across the country.
Yeah.
Even though he seemed like a good match for me. And obviously I married him based upon my guidance telling me to.
Right.
We maintained our space in New York, and I would let other teachers use my space when I wasn't here. And then we spent time in Seattle where he was. And then when that cycle ended, we went to San Diego for 3 years. And now we are both together in New York.
Really?
And I got what I wanted. Isn't that amazing?
That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And I only followed my higher self because honestly, I would not have accepted this guy's invitations. Yeah. Even though he seemed like a good guy, even though he seemed like a good match, I wanted to be with somebody who was from New York. And what Spirit said to me, what do you care? You're traveling all the time anyway. What difference does it make?
What difference does it make?
That was something else. I said to him, why do you want to be with me? Yeah. I'm gone all the time. And he said, I'd rather be with you part-time than not at all.
Aww. So
that's when you know you have a good match.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, it's life is full of interesting challenges. Life is full of big successes and big disappointments.
Right.
And it's what you make of the disappointments that matters.
What a powerful ending to an exceptional interview. I think that last thought Maureen left us with is worth repeating, which is life is full of interesting challenges. Life is full of big successes and big disappointments. And it's what you make of those disappointments that matters. For more great advice from Maureen, or to purchase one of several of her best-selling books or meditations, visit MaureenStGermain.com. I assure you, you won't regret it. Thank you for tuning in to 5D Marketing Secrets Radio. Please remember to subscribe and leave feedback. And if you'd like me to teach you 7 of the most powerful marketing strategies for spiritual business owners in 2019 free, then just go to 5dmarketingsecrets.com and simply download the full report. See you next time.